Hi, I am Jessica Ardeal. I am a certified body talk practitioner with the International Body Talk Association. And today we get to speak with advanced certified body talk practitioner Hilary Carlile out of Auckland, New Zealand. Hilary, I'm thrilled that you're on the panel of experts with us talking about body talk. And in full disclosure, the origin of body talk does have its lineage to your land. Where can we start, Hilary? What was your introduction to the body talk system?
Well, first, I guess first of all, it's great to be talking to you today, and it's very exciting. It's early morning here, and I guess it's late at night there. So I was introduced to Body Talk by my husband, who, through a friend of ours, and she had had a frozen shoulder fixed that she'd had for 15 years.
Wow.
And my husband had a back problem, and so he thought he was going to Body Talk, Torque. And so he went to see one of our practitioners here in Auckland, and was so relaxed on the table, and she went back to this event when he was 15. And then he got up off the table and sort of shook, and sort of his body settled down. But then the interesting thing was, a couple of mornings later, we heard his whole spine click into place, each vertebra click into place, and the pain went away. And he thought, oh, this is fantastic, we should learn it. And I learned it sort of to be supportive.
So
And then I became a practitioner.
your husband and you went through the courses together?
Yep,
Oh,
that's
how
right.
lovely. How was
So,
that, experiencing that and bringing those dynamics home? How did that change your relationship, can I ask? Is that too personal?
no, I think it gave us, we were at a point in our lives where we could have, our interests could have totally separated, or they could come together, and it actually brought us on a joint path, which was really very exciting and quite a privilege at that stage of our
Cool.
lives.
Yeah, I love that. Um, so, with the clients that you see now, Hilary, what type of people come to see you? Do you have a certain type of ideal client, or does it matter who's walking through the door?
Well, I'm a strong believer that the right clients walk through the door. And I'm generally work with clients who are committed to their well-being, and they're willing to do the work to move forward in their lives. They've often had experience in the health sector and not got the answers there. And I think part of their attraction to me is that I also work in the health sector. So I do part-time project work in mental health and addictions, and part-time body talk. So I think people are attracted to me because I do know the health system here. And
And
yes, I think the key thing for me is that they've decided that they're on their journey. They want to shift something, and yeah, they're ready to go.
And so I just have to ask, Hilary, I haven't had the opportunity yet to visit New Zealand, but what I hear, it's picturesque and beautiful and just dreamlike. So forgive my ignorance, but do you have stress there?
We have our own form of stress, and we do live in a beautiful country, but we still have financial issues, and there's a lot of child poverty, well, for us, there's a lot of child poverty, and there's people living in unheated houses and having trouble. There's a whole culture about buying your own house in New Zealand, and so you need to own your own house, and young people are finding it hard to get into the market. And there's a lot of factors playing out. Even our distance from other countries makes it difficult. But I think, you know, we experience the stresses, but we live in a beautiful country.
Sure. So geography doesn't play a part in the differences that humans experience as far as
No.
day-to-day tasks, and I get that, and I just wanted to have a little fun with that question. And there is a New Zealand Body Talk Association, and so I'm imagining then that being a huge resource for people as they do manage, daily living and the stress that goes
Yeah.
along with that.
Yeah. So the New Zealand Body Talk Association is quite an important organisation in actually building the body talk community here and holding that body talk community together. And I think the other thing it upholds the standards of body talk. Um, it's important when you have a modality that actually it does meet the standards. We have the IBA standards, and then we have the NZBA standards, and we've just started in Auckland an interesting. We don't have practice nights. We have the learning matrix nights, which is a whole different way of actually looking at practice nights, so everyone contributes and can grow. And then we've got an annual conference coming up shortly.
Oh,
So we're
lovely.
very lucky that we've got a committed group who are leading it.
And about how many people are in the association, Hilary? Do you know just roughly off the top of your head? I'm sorry if that's not a fair question.
Oh, I think it's probably about 60.
Oh,
Remember,
wow.
we're a small country. So we have students and practitioners.
Oh, wonderful. It
Yeah.
just sounds like such a nice cushion of support for people that are being led there to learn and guided by people like yourself that have been studying and learning and experiencing
Yeah.
body talk. So, do you have one or two case studies yourself of clients that have come to see you and, just that wow factor of a session?
Uh, you always have case studies. I think one of the probably most exciting ones I had was this client of mine she had the propensity to diabetes, but she didn't have any symptoms at all. And her mother and I think aunt had got diabetes at a particular age, and the doctor had treated both the mother and aunt and was really quite determined that this client of mine was going to get diabetes. That was just her outcome, and you better live with it type of thing. And it was causing her a lot of stress. And every time she went to the doctor, it was really stressful. And she came to see me, and the blood sugar levels were quite high. They not too bad, but on the higher side of normal. And so we did this session, and 2 years previously, her husband had died, and she'd managed it all really well, and she was a very efficient person and managed it all, but actually she was holding the stress in her body. So in the session, she was holding it in the pancreas. And we did the session, we did a lot of work on getting the pancreas back working in optimum condition. And then she went back to the doctor, and it was right in the middle of normal. And he said to her, just keep doing what you're doing. That's a fantastic result. So I was very proud of that, and she was obviously thrilled too.
That's
So,
amazing.
but it was interesting. What comes up is she stores all her emotions in her pancreas. So the poor pancreas is having a lot of difficulty coping. But another one that was so simple. One of the things about body talk is that it can be so simple. And I was in a work conference with my colleagues. Someone flew over from Australia, and he'd strained his back, getting his suitcase off the conveyor belt. And so he was in agony. And one of my clients was also in the session, and she said, "Oh, let Hilary treat you. You know, she'll sort it out for you." And being a bloke, he was no stoically, I can cope with this. Well, finally, after lunch, the pain was too much. He said, "Oh, just okay, Hilary, do it." So I just did this. I balanced the right and left side of his brain with the cortices technique, and then I just put my hands at the back of his neck and then on the base of his spine, occiput to sacrum, and just held my hands there for a minute or so, and I could actually feel the energy start flowing up his back, and then I did the cortices again, and he said, "It's gone." And he could hardly believe that it was such a simple technique. And yeah, so I've got a lot of others, but
I appreciate you
that's,
sharing those stories. You know, they help connect and make sense of how body talk can work. And that really shows, excuse me, so many different layers and levels of awareness, right? And that human resistance we have, which is so funny because body talk helps to facilitate our own healing, right? But we think,
yeah.
oh, I can do it on my own. And we resist being open to allowing that channel for the body mind to get to it. Can you speak to that at all?
Wow, that's a big area. I think that, this is really where I bring in my work with the New Zealand First Light flower essences. And the thinking that we can do it on our own is very much a personality driven, I can do it. And there's a lot of self-help out there saying that you should be able to do it. So there's a lot of pressure thinking that you should be able to do it. And what we need to recognize is that we are, that we can access this other, if you like, channel, which will allow us to heal ourselves. But we have to be willing to go on that journey.
Yeah.
And that's sort of at a soul level when we can grow and evolve rather than we can do it ourselves. Actually, there's so much information out there that, yeah, let's be part of the world.
And the willingness that you mentioned there, Hilary, it's so, it's like, what is it going to take for you to get willing to tap into your own infinite healing power,
Yeah.
right? It's going to take for some people that discomfort and grinning and bearing until they just can't take it anymore in that
Yeah.
example you just shared. And thank you for being able to articulate my philosophical kind of offshoot there.
Yeah.
But getting back to the topic, what was your life like before Body Talk? And do you have a personal experience that you could share that illustrates, how Body Talk worked for you?
Well, before Body Talk, I was a high performing project manager in the health sector. And project. I used to have big projects that involved a lot of community engagement, and they were always tight deadlines. So I was on the go the whole time. And then I was managing family, juggling family, trying to manage my own health and well-being. It's that scenario when you're trying to do everything. And I think that I realized that actually about the time that my husband, got in contact with Body Talk, sort of divine timing. I realized that actually, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And I want to be able to explore other ways of healing because I could see the health sector had a limited, well, it served a purpose and you know, I had a health incident and I used the medical system with fantastic results, and I didn't even hesitate. But actually, there's some things that aren't resolved through the medical system, and I wanted to explore that. And so that's sort of when the opening came for Body Talk. And I remember actually it was in my probably my first course. I'd had to drive. I was working up north on a project, which is 2 hours drive from Auckland. I was setting up a breast screening service in Northland, and I had to drive to the course, which was so it's a 5 hours drive on a Friday night to get to the course. And when I arrived there, I could hardly function. And Tracy Livingston, who was one of the originators of Body Talk with John, she came and looked at me and she said, "Hilary, your whole nervous system is absolutely off the planet. You know, you're absolutely wired." And she did this, I think, again, you know, really simple technique, the cortices, and suddenly I could feel my whole body collapse, relax and calm down. And it was like, wow, I can remember that totally stressed out, you know, off the planet feeling. So that was really one, you know, a physical type thing. And then later, when I'm very interested in the dynamics in a family and how those dynamics play out. And when my uncle died, he was the, if you like, the patriarch of the family, and it left a huge hole for us. He sort of died, and then we all sort of disintegrated and were unable, because we were a close family, unable to function really as a family and make the decisions we needed to. And so I was like, aha, what's happening to the family dynamics? And I had a Body Talk session, and in this session, if you like, it released my uncle from the living matrix of the family, and it put my cousin, his son, in as that matrix holder. And we all just calmed down and started doing what we had to do. And it was really very noticeable how we went from being dysfunctional to functional.
It's so fascinating. I'm sorry for your loss, and thank you for sharing that personal story to help connect. It's like Body Talk's so experiential. It's almost until you have that experience yourself can you make sense of it. And even then it's beyond logic at times. So it's kind of like,
Yeah,
you know, climbing the mountain and trying to describe to somebody the view from the top if they've never been there before,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, what else would you like to share, Hilary?
Uh, I think, you know, we're in New Zealand, we're very proud that we were part of the inception of Body Talk, and John Waldheim actually came over to New Zealand when he was very ill, and Tracy Livingston had learnt this new body chemistry technique, and she's an osteopath, and she treated John, his Epstein-Barr's, and so we feel that, you know, we're right there at the beginning, and I think there's a lot of energy in for Body Talk in New Zealand, and I think the thing is that it's the simplicity of Body Talk that really sort of resonates with New Zealand, and we've been very strong participants in the whole network, and we get, you know, great results.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to connect with you, Hilary. Thank you. Please, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Um, uh, I think the other thing that we're pretty privileged with in New Zealand is that because John's an Australian, he's down here quite a lot. So he comes over and sees us, which is very nice. And I've spoken at the IBA members conference and in Australia and in Florida. So we do see a lot of him, which is very good. And I enjoy being able to bring that leading edge information and techniques to my clients.
And we can find your bio, Hilary, on the Body Talk website at bodytalksystem.com. Is there any other way that we can connect with you?
Yes, my other website is wildernesswellbeing.co.nz, and there's a lot of information about not only my body talk practice, but also my business of going out into the wilderness and reconnecting with people, with themselves and nature, and just spending time in nature.
Oh, may I just ask for you to elaborate on that just a bit? It sounds lovely.
So what wilderness well-being is really brings together a lot of my interests, including body talk's an important part of it. And it's for when people have said, yes, I want to reconnect to myself, and they want to do it through being in nature. And as you mentioned at the start, we have this beautiful New Zealand bush here and beautiful countryside, and often people don't know how to go out into nature. So we take them out for a day experience, and when the going gets tough, we use body talk. So we do the cortices, and we do, like I mentioned, that occiput to sacrum technique. If their back's hurting or a part of their body's hurting, we do the reciprocals, and then they find that they can actually get up the hill and confront their challenge. Wow. And then we use the flower essences to connect to their, like our beautiful kauri tree balances the heart chakra. So we use the essence in the energy of the tree, and then they can actually feel their heart chakra balancing.
That sounds so just connected, such a connected experience, right? How lovely. How often do you do that, Hilary? And how did you have your love of nature? Is that just something inborn, or do you just explore naturally?
Well, I think it's part of the family heritage. We love the Himalayas and we love nature. And so it's really, I do it with my niece and my husband, and it's our expression of our uncle's legacy, really. So as I mentioned, my uncle, Sir Edmund Hilary, and this is our expression of his legacy. So we're very privileged to be able to do it.
I appreciate you sharing that piece and kind of getting off the chart a bit, but body talk is in everything, right? There's no separateness from it. We can incorporate it with whatever we're doing. Would you have any words of wisdom or insight, Hilary, for a health professional or layperson that's looking to incorporate body talk into their ability to be of service?
I think, yes, that's a big question. I think really the thing is it can be integrated, and I'm looking at that chart behind you, and at the bottom, other modalities. It does mean that it's easy to incorporate other modalities. And one of the things we've particularly done in New Zealand, I think, is the practitioners of each integrated their different modalities. So we have some that specialize in animals, some that do body talk and mindscape. I do body talk and the flower essences, and that's actually really exciting. And so also it means that as practitioners, we're not in competition with each other.
Sure.
because actually we each offer different skills. And I think one of the things I would say is learn, body talk well and then integrate it. So it's, master the basics of body talk and then actually knowing that you can integrate modalities and yes, and then do the integration. That's actually the process I had to go through.
Yeah.
And now I have a great time. That's the main thing.
Yeah, it's so fun and it's so fascinating, and every session is different, and you're always, discovering new things. You mentioned body talk for animals, and if anybody can hear the little whiny baby in the background, that's my puppy dog there. Do you do work with animals, Hilary?
Yes, I do work with animals and with cats, and in fact, I've got a cat of my own, which is often comes into sessions with clients, and I've treated a number. Oh, hello. Um, I've treated, yeah, a number of cats and actually dogs. So, and horses. You know, we've trained with lucky Lucia likes to come to New Zealand, so we're pretty lucky.
Oh, well, right? Isn't she the best?
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time to share, Hilary, and and doing the work that you do is so important. So I just want to honor and acknowledge that piece that you hold for us. And I encourage everyone to reach out, and you do distant sessions as well, right?
Absolutely. A lot of my practice is distance sessions.
Yeah, so I would just encourage everyone to connect and get as many body talk sessions by as many people as possible. There's just a
Yeah.
never-ending discovery. So thank you for sharing today and taking the time, Hilary. Was there anything that we didn't get to cover that you wanted to mention?
No, I think that's probably it. And just thank you for doing this and, spreading the word. And yeah, it's very exciting.
I love body talk. Thank you, Hilary, and we'll see everyone soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye for now.